Call the meeting to order. This is the last Public Art Commission meeting I will be presiding over. I've been serving for too many years, so I'm retiring. But welcome. Tonight we have to flip-flop things around a little bit. My name is Tina Zagiva. Sorry I didn't mention that. Before we continue, I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves around the table. I'll start on my right. You can just talk into it.
Lisa Lambert.
Emmanuel Carter.
Savannah Robity.
Saisha Bird, Commissioner of Parks.
So we're waiting till 6. We got a couple commissioners out sick. We got a couple commissioners coming late. So we'll move the voting items to 6 o'clock and then the other discussions up. So we're not able to review the minutes and approve them, so we're going to skip that, nor the proposal that was submitted. So if the DOT is ready, we'll be happy to have you come join us if you'd like, sit at the table. And tonight we have, did Tanisha leave? Oh, Tanisha, oh my God. Do you want to come up here or you good? Yeah, come on up. Tanisha Murphy, John Adams, and Betsy Parmalee. And so the reason why we've asked you to come tonight is because Emmanuel has been spearheading this, DOT I-81 project and how we can integrate art into it. Since I think I started on the commission in 2018, it feels like. It's been a long time since you've been discussing this. Maybe it hasn't been that long, but...
Not quite that long, but no.
But some years. And I know that there's been several discussions, and we're trying to figure out how the Public Art Commission can best be a tool to be integrated into these things and help bring in local artists and just support, the art scene and celebrate our community in a respectful way through art, hopefully in a collaboration. So Emmanuel, I'm going to let you take the lead on everything and sort of go over all the stuff we've been working on.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Tina. Does everybody have one of these sheets? Okay, so I just tried to summarize sort of where we are and what needs to be done. And so put simply, in thinking about the Almond Street corridor, which will be the boulevard at grade as part of this larger project, the city has an interest in doing two things, well, more than two things, but I think the ones that are pertinent to us right now and directly related to the work of the Parks Department and the Public Art Commission is finding space for public art. Just finding space for public art. Sculpture seems to be the preferred way to go. Just because we don't have walls, that are part of the project, and secondly, space for lots of planting for urban forestry. Okay, and with that in mind, some of us in the Public Art Commission and in the Parks Department began discussions about things like, what can the city provide and what does the city need? And so if you look at, what the city needs, so space for public artists, sculpture, the construction of pedestals for public art, for public sculptures, which my understanding is the Parks Department can build, and how big those things are depends on, I guess, the ultimate dimensions that the DOT team has for the boulevard, and that will also determine the kind of work that we can put there, the scale of the work that we can put there. Now, at the moment, the city does not have sculpture, all right? So we talked, I say we, Ann Kofer and Tina was involved, Josh Wilcox, Commissioner Byrd, in discussions over the last year and a half or so about developing a system whereby we can borrow sculpture from local universities or from art parks or from museums, okay, with the idea that the city would build a relationship with a network of institutions and would try to borrow pieces of appropriate scale that we could install in the boulevard for, say, 2 to 3 years, maybe longer, maybe less, but certainly 2 to 3 years seemed reasonable in our initial discussions. And pursuant to that, there were some initial discussions about the extent to which the city would be responsible for transporting the art, insuring it, and installing it. Okay, because it's my understanding the state doesn't do that. So yeah, the city would take on that. We've gone through a couple of iterations of letters that we would send out to institutions seeking such a relationship. We haven't yet done anything with it, partly because we haven't yet had this kind of discussion where everybody who's a participant is in the same room, okay? We also talked about the possibility of commissioning art, not because we have a big sack of money or something, but that we might go for grants and then work through the Syracuse Parks Conservancy, which can receive money and handle it more flexibly than the municipality can, and that would be another way to get art. In that case, reaching out to individuals, but also reaching out to, say, universities, saying to students that may do a sculptural piece as a thesis that, you know, we're looking for a piece of a certain kind of scale that might end up in the boulevard, and then challenge the student artist to come up with something bold and, you know, and compelling. So, which would be a good way to build a good relationship between the Public Art Commission and the Parks Department on the city end with those institutions, okay? And with the understanding that DOT always gets something of quality in those, on those pedestals, okay? You know, as we were talking about before we all began the meeting, right now, the Public Art Commission is having this discussion. The Parks Department is having this discussion. There is an Almond Street, Almond Street Corridor Committee that is having this discussion. And we need to somehow find a way to get some people from all of those groups in the same space to talk about this. By the way, with the understanding that any art that ends up being displayed in the corridor still ends up coming before the Public Art Commission. Okay, so I'm hoping that, you know, in the foreseeable future that we'll have an opportunity to have the DOT team talk about, you know, where it is with regard to the design of the boulevard, and then how that design has space for Steve Harris's team's plantings, you know, and he has certain spatial needs and so on and so on, and then where on each block we might have opportunities for public art, so that we get out of this eventually not simply, a traffic corridor, but a really an urban design statement, okay, that that speaks of what Syracuse has been about, is about, may become, okay, and an ongoing relationship between the city and the state about, keeping that, that compelling urban design statement alive and evolving. So that's where we are as I see it at the moment. And again, I've been with the Almond Street team. I've been with the Public Art Commission. Tina and I have had some meetings at the Parks Department. And we just need to find a way to, there's no it yet that we can either modify or react to or anything. And I'm a little worried that, particularly with the Almond Street team, which has a bunch of architects on it, so we could get way into the weeds about dimensionality and still not quite know what we're talking about and working with.
So I'll say thank you for having us. I think I can echo everything you're saying, that I think we need to get all these different groups together so we can all at least be working off of the same concept of what's available, what we can and can't do. So definitely appreciate having us here so we can start this dialogue. I think, one thing, what I'm finding as being responsible for the 81 project is we seem to just be leading the charge on everything across New York State, it seems, whether it's things like air quality, noise, but public art is another element that New York State DOT doesn't actually have a policy about public art. We have policies on many, many things. We don't have a policy on public art. So I think we certainly, as a team, see that there are opportunities for public art, but I think what I'm hearing from our executives, from our legal team, and I don't want to sound like a bad bureaucrat here, but I think we need to understand how the process would work to ensure that we all get art that we're comfortable with. And full disclosure, you guys all know this about me probably, I'm a civil engineer, I am not an artist, so this is entering territory that I don't live in this. You guys live in this, thank goodness. So, but I think, when DOT has had public art on their projects, it has not gone well. So I think as a group, one of the things I think I need help with is how we would do that, what it would look like to have public art. How would we ensure that it is something that the city is comfortable with, New York State DOT is comfortable with, and everyone in between, and the community is comfortable with. So I think, starting this dialogue, I think the timing is critical. But I'll talk a little bit about just schedule, just so we can kind of all get our bearings, because this is a huge project, and oftentimes people feel like, oh my God, you haven't spoken to us, so that must mean you've forgotten about us and there's no chance. So the Almond Street corridor, and where you're specifically talking about, we'll say the area from Erie Boulevard to Van Buren Street, that's in what we call Contract 8. Contract 8 has gone through our EIS design, and we have not started the final design. So the timing is perfect for us to start this engagement. I guess I want to say that it is not like we're not past the point. It's not like it's been through final design or anything like that. So I think getting the right people together on a regular basis to kind of talk about these things, to talk about widths of medians and tree coverage and potential, but with the caveat, if you can all appreciate that, we'll need to understand how the process would work before we can actually give a final, yes, we can do that. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, and I think, just to, kind of let you know that we have certain processes in place when we're reviewing applications, and they typically involve, this isn't a building, but it would be approval from the entity, and also we want letters of support. We want the community to be aware of it, and since this is such a big project, like what that would look like is, I think you're right, to be determined. Sitting everybody in the room and saying, how do we make sure everybody's aware and not saying, well, how come I didn't know about this? But you're always going to get that. You can't always avoid that, But put it out as many channels as possible to get people aware of it, and also giving people the opportunity for public input. But I think what's different about this, it's a little tricky if we go off this model, and what Emmanuel's talking about is that these sculptures are already pre-existing. So we're not commissioning, we're just borrowing sculptures. And this is just one model because we don't really have the funding to do large-scale sculptures. We could probably find the funding to do the transportation of these sculptures and the insurance and stuff. But, so this is why we went this direction until we can get to that other spot. But, so that kind of makes it a little different in that, you know, this could be a voting thing where you have, these are the sculptures that we have an option from. DOT says yes to, you know, these, and then they go out to the public, and then they vote. You know, it could look something like that.
Okay.
But, you know, we'd have to really kind of put that system in place and then implement, so.
And to speak a little more off of what Tina's saying is we have multiple systems in place to approve public art, whether it be sculptural or mural form. And, you know, we could work with you guys to develop a system that works best for DOT. And even if I like to imagine that someday we will be able to commission a piece, but should we get this loan program in place, you know, things like maintaining the works, I understand there's a certain bench, basically rotting, and it was a sculptural work commissioned at some point, and I think it's in on DOT property right now, and yeah, the blue couch. The blue couch. You know, we don't want that to happen. And so setting a time limit for a loan can prevent that. And within our current application process, stipulations for upkeep, maintaining a piece, plans for if something gets damaged, all of those contingencies are like built into a project so that, you know, should something happen to a work, we will have built in a way to say, hey, look, this piece is rotting on public property. It is a nuisance, and we will remove it. And that's part of what we are already doing in the projects we have. So we would be the group to work with, and I don't know if you know how this group functions. So we are comprised of community members, local artists, and I'm an arts administrator, and you know, Emmanuel here is landscape designer, landscape architect,
city planner, actually.
City planner, yeah. And so we have a diverse range of perspectives, and Tina spearheaded the City as Canvas project where we worked with federal funding, which got really restrictive on how the public interacted and projects were selected. And so we've enacted.
Well, that wasn't restrictive. The restrictive part was how it could be spent.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, understandably. So here's the other thing too, is that if it's DOT land, where's the city come into that? Because if we're putting art on your land, theoretically, based on our rules, you would be responsible for maintaining it. But if there's a relationship built or it's some weird quasi-ownership, then we would still have that partnership and say every 2 to 3 years, we rotate it out. If somebody damages it, the city's insured it. You know, that's where we can kind of look at
And I think those are all the things, you know, that our executive team and our attorneys are thinking about. And there is a process. I mean, we have a process for people to put things in our highway boundary, if you will. So I think that's already set, whether it's, insurance or whatever. I think it's more of the actual art that gives everyone a little pause. But it sounds like the process exists. It's just maybe we need to get a very, a 101 on the Art Commission of Syracuse on how it works, what it really looks like, an example of how it's played out. I think that would really help us with the dialogue and how we could support this. Because I've worked and lived in this area for a long time, and I've seen how Syracuse has evolved. So I am as invested in how this looks as everyone else. So it's just, I think it's educating everyone around me that's going to be.
If I could add too, it would help our executives for like examples, like has a similar program been implemented somewheres and maybe not on a borrowing basis, but, you know, other cities with examples, those sort of things, so we can get an idea of, you know, present to them.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
easy.
Or an example of something that you would want to travel here to actually.
Some examples of actual artwork that they
Yes.
can
All
compare and
of the
say
above.
something similar.
In a
to the
similar
style.
setting. and-
Yes,
yeah,
to the style.
yeah.
So
And
then
if there was precedence of this type of work, you know, stuff happening before, even, I don't know if there's been places where they've borrowed art pieces like this on
We
a
have a piece
rotational.
on view now that's
Yeah.
borrowed.
The whale tail.
Yeah.
You probably have seen it. It's
right.
from Stone Quarry. It's right in Perseverance Park near Original Grain and
And it was so
Incas.
popular, it was originally a 2-year loan and it's just been extended.
I think it's also because we don't have the money to move it, but.
I,
go with
I often hear nice things said about it. as well.
No, it is cool. It is a very nice sculpture.
But yeah, so, you know, any good public art program attempts to make sure, I mean, we're not going to please everyone, and there are some people who just don't like public art, and they're never going to be pleased. I'm not worried about them. I am, but can't do much other than not do public art. So we'd like to do public art. So we have, like I said, multiple processes by which we go through to make sure our community knows about, has opportunity to reflect on, and support or reject a project.
So what do you need from us moving forward? What's our actionable items?
So if there's a place, I did go on the website and I looked at the application a little bit, but if it exists, or if you could provide, kind of like what we were talking about, the process and how you vet things, how the community is involved, how long the process takes. And I can follow up and summarize this in an email if that helps. But examples, I think, would help us, examples of the artwork, examples of how you've done this process before, and how it's gone. I think that would just help us kind of put together a package.
Yeah, I don't think this commission hasn't really, we can't commission art. So that hasn't really happened, but like through, like City as Canvas or TNT, I can talk to you a little bit about that. But, I mean, some of this other stuff we can definitely put together for you. If we do a slideshow or whatever you need, packets.
Whatever's easiest. I don't want to put a heavy burden on the team to do that, but anything I think would help us.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a burden. I think we all want this, so we're willing to do what needs to be done.
Just, I mean, it's hard because you don't know the, like, final design, but, I mean, are you thinking like 4 pieces of art? Are you thinking a dozen? Are you thinking, like, I mean, it's easy to say as many as we can, but,
You know, what would be your ask?
Yeah.
You know, like if it was just like a,
How much space will be available? Do we have about how much space is available that we can then determine how many pieces would fit there, or what style of art we're going for? I mean, the size of the property.
Well, there are a couple of suggestions. And I can pull some of this together for you, that there was a project done back in around 2007 or 8 by the Metropolitan Development Association, now Center State CEO. And they had a concept in which they showed what appeared to be a desire for at least one per block on the boulevard. We also did a studio project at ESF 2 years ago, I think it was, in which we built on that approach. And I think we were looking at the possibility of putting the works of art toward the intersections, okay? With the result being that there were probably 2 per block, okay? And the idea that the intersections kind of become arenas from which the art can be seen without interfering with turning lanes. We took that into consideration. And I think right now the DOT conceptual that Joe Driscoll's Almond Corridor team is looking at I think shows no public art. It shows mostly plantings in the boulevard, okay? So, but that's relative to the Almond Street corridor. But I think there are a lot of other examples we could get out of Philadelphia, Boston, Chicago, of how they have placed art and plantings, in boulevarded situations.
I think those examples would be really helpful for our executives.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we can come up with a bunch of visuals that might be of value, and if we need to, we can also do Madrid or Barcelona or something like that.
Let's go international, let's do it.
I mean, they've been doing it longer and do it really well. So, but I think, as Tina suggested, though, we haven't done this before, okay?
So we're all in it together.
So, yeah. So hopefully we can find a way to find enough trust among the participants that, we can grow in this.
I think an action item for us is, I'm not familiar with Joe's 81 Almond corridor. I think we might think we know what it is, but we can reach out to Joe and find out what that is. One of the misconceptions we hear a lot about Almond Street and the Boulevard is it'll be like Commonwealth Ave in Boston, really wide, like a park. That's not the case. So, we have to level set also. I mean, I think the median at most is maybe 20 feet. So one of our action items, I think, with how we determine how to meet together is show you what the plans could be. So we know, like you said, so we know what we're working with. So we're not thinking something much bigger than actually is available, just, reality. So I think one of my questions is how best to get everyone together? Is it these monthly meetings? Is it other meetings? I know I don't want to put you guys on the spot for something you can't talk about, but if there's a different way to get, the parks team who's responsible for maybe maintenance, the art commission players, Joe, our team, because we have landscape architects. So, how do we get that together?
So I think, for us, we have task forces, which, so any commissioners, 3 or more commissioners we'd have to be open to the public. So we form task forces to kind of specialize in certain areas and take on the larger tasks of our master plan. And so Emmanuel, was it just you on this one, dealing with I-81 on the task force?
At the moment.
Yeah. So
I could join. I have some flexibility to attend meetings in Syracuse now,
Okay.
if need be.
And I'm retiring, so I could, if they wanted me to, I can join as a community member and then help out there. So there's that. There's task force meetings, which we've met, like with you at Parks. And then you're more than welcome. These are monthly public meetings that we have. It could be on a running agenda item, I-81 updates, which we've actually had, but, we're just talking about ideas. So there's a number of ways that we can continue to, and you don't have to be here every meeting. I don't think that's necessary. But maybe once there's further development, you guys come back and then,
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I
Does that
like the
sound
task force. I like that. Okay, that's perfect. Okay.
And now there's another thing, not just the sculptures, but there's the murals, which I think is what you brought some information on.
Yeah, so just, so we have been developing, so along, wherever we have some infrastructure that's available that we thought it could have some murals, some artwork, we have had our landscape architecture team develop. So this is what we are taking out to the community. These may look very complete, and I will say that some of them are, like specifically the Onondaga Nation mural, that we worked very closely with the Onondaga Nation community. But the other ones, they are conceptual. They're themes, and the reason they look so developed is so people could understand the level of detail, and you're all artists, so you can, I think, appreciate that. But this is just, we'll be going to TNT meetings, we'll be going wherever there's community that wants input, so you can take, look, pass along. So these are in the areas, so for example, on I-81 north of 690, the canyon as we call it, there's a lot of that retaining wall, so that'll be places where we'll have murals. Under 690, along Kraus, there's some space on the bridge abutments. And then along the new Business Loop 81, where instead of crossing over the city, it's coming down to street level. There's tiers of retaining walls, and we're proposing some murals on that. These would actually be made of a polycarbonate material, so they wear well. We've heard anywhere from 20 to 50 years, I think, durability, and they're made up of multiple panels, so if one panel gets damaged or worn down, you can potentially replace it versus, say, concrete or, something less durable. So definitely looking for feedback. We have these on our website. We have a Google form where people can provide input. So if you're aware of any groups that would like to perhaps chime in, if you guys have comments, we're open for ideas.
I think the other thing is they're also like multiple options. So aside from probably the nation one, that one's set, but they're just looking at different options of feedback.
So I know these are just concepts, but have you thought about, and I guess this is where I was wondering, if we have local artists or artists within not just in Syracuse, but the region, that have particular styles that maybe they could apply to this concept so it gives it a little bit more character? Have you thought about that, or is that not in your wheelhouse?
So we have, and I'll go back to my first. We don't have DOT doesn't do that yet, so we have to figure out if we can do that. That's my honest answer. Ideally, these get installed while the contractor is there. So I would say the ones along the 81 corridor, like Court, Spencer, Bear, that contract should be done by next fall. So in a perfect world, we would have these installed then. If it has to be done at another time, I guess we could deal with that. So unfortunately for those, time is kind of critical.
So, who designed these? Who are the artists who?
So our landscape architects that are on our team worked pretty closely with actually the mayor's office. So this kind of evolved. We were showing just a very basic treatment on these walls, and we heard from the mayor and others that no, we need this to be a gateway to our beautiful city. So that's where our landscape architect team came up with these designs.
So they. Okay.
Yep, they're just concepts. So
Yeah,
if,
yeah,
so-
I got you,
if
I
the
got you,
community
yeah.
is like, we don't want this at all, we want
Yeah.
this, we want it to show
Is anything going on?
flowers. You know, we've developed that.
Is anything going on the bridges on, going down into the valley? We have those big bridges.
Oh, those retaining walls or the bridge?
Yeah, the bridge walls that are right there on
Oh, you're talking about the 80, that they just off of Seneca Turnpike?
Seneca Turnpike itself, yeah. the
Yeah,
ones
no,
that-
we don't have anything planned for there.
Could we get something planned for there, because that will get tagged? And that's our big fear because I live in the valley, that's a big fear of ours, is that because it is so close to the wall, roads and stuff, that should have something there, because it is a huge part, and that is a very busy street, as you know, that should have something there to help deter that.
And this
or
is right
something.
along Seneca Turnpike you're
Yeah,
talking about?
it's, the two, you have two giant overpasses there. It's a big zone.
We don't have plans for it right now.
Okay.
Can I ask? So, are you doing a call for artists to?
Not at the moment.
So, how are these concepts being realized? If it's happening,
They're printing it on a polycarbonate and then installing it up.
Okay. So basically the artist is your landscape architect now. Okay.
So if the
Yeah.
community comes back and says, we want dinosaurs, we would go back to our landscape architect and say, they want dinosaurs, they don't want this that's on here. And they develop a design based off of the community's feedback.
I think one thing to keep in mind too is particularly the ones north of 690 on the Business Loop 81 that's really high speed. And so driver distraction is something that we have to be very concerned about. So I think you'll notice that some of those ones might be a little bit more basic, like easy to understand, so it's not catching your attention for too long. The ones on the south side, we have recreational paths there, they're going a little bit slower, so those are a little bit more detailed down there.
We should have given you a studio in dinosaurs.
That's right. The Syracuse dinosaurs, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I've seen in other format some of those ideas for where it comes down to grade toward Van Buren, and it's well thought out, you know, and I'm hoping that, you know, that the community, the broader community will,
Particularly the south side, we feel like there's a lot of, I mean, one of the examples, the two concepts that we have down there, the 15th Ward takes some historic photographs that they kind of mesh together into a collage of what the 15th Ward used to look like, the barber shops, the meat market, you know, some recognizable photos. The other one, there's a precedent example of a cultural wall, and I think it was Ohio that had that. So it was, you know, going to the community and who are the most important, you know, important people, places, architecture, you know, that's meaningful to the community, and kind of sports people, arts people, you know, that could be incorporated in one of those cultural walls. And then there's options of, do we want to just focus on, I mean, we had two examples as Libba Cotton or Jeanette Van Epps, but it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be those people that you could, so we're looking for, that one I see a lot of community feedback for.
Is there any, like, are you guys looking at copyright and what you're using and all that stuff? Because also I'm wondering if, depending on where it's located, I don't know where our jurisdiction ends, but do we have to review any of this stuff and approve it, or is this outside of our jurisdiction?
I guess that's a question I had, because all of this is within our right-of-way, so I don't know how that works with the city,
But if it's in city,
within the city
within
proper.
this, in a public property, it technically does, but I don't know how that applies to a highway. Cutting through?
Yeah, I don't know. It's trying to be careful here. Like, so like noise ordinances and stuff, like we try to abide by the cities, but we're kind of exempt from them as a state agency. So we wouldn't put up anything, I don't think we would put up anything that the city objected to.
Right.
Oh, yeah, no,
But
I'm just.
as far as jurisdiction and getting approval,
Yeah,
I'm not
because
sure.
everything that's on public property, mural or sculpture has to come through us, but
Not only on public property, but publicly visible.
no. If
Right.
it's on, well, if it's a two-house, if it's a private residence, I can put a mural on that without coming to the commission. If I have a sculpture on my private property, I don't have to come to the commission.
On the side of, what about on the side of a business building?
If it's on a business, it has to come to the commission.
Right.
Yeah.
It can be an action item that we can
Yep.
look into, but
Can I mean, it looks like this is far along, and so this recommendation would be maybe for the future, and maybe for the execs to consider, and maybe we should also put together something for you guys, because there are other very successful public art projects that go on highways where other states commissioned artists, and then work was, so the parameters for each location, like, it can't be too busy, it's gotta have this, it's, you know, like, it has, here are inspiration items, like this, you've got your little, I'm gonna call it a mood board, but all of that's made available, and then you can do a call, and then artist design based on that. And then the result is, you know, very specific, and then that way and then the neighborhood votes on them. There was a really great one in Maricopa, Arizona, on bridges that I could send you guys images of. But
But you guys don't have a system for that.
Yeah,
Like, and the
but-
RFP and the calls.
exactly.
And the-
So,
Yeah.
but maybe that's. I see this is done.
Well, I mean, it's, when it comes to an artist being commissioned, that's where there's just uncertainty right
Yeah.
now. So we had to move these forward.
Yeah,
We felt
and yay, we support. Thank you. No complaints. But I understand.
yeah, and those, like I said, to reiterate what you said, they've evolved from, I mean, it used to be a different type of retaining wall with no real art on it, and then, you know, again, interactions with the mayor's office and how we develop those themes, and then,
And the Historical Society can tell you who were some of the main figures here historically.
And that's
stuff.
what I think a lot of that is. So I think someone asked about copyright. I think some of these they would work through the Onondaga Historical Society.
So if the mayor's office was contacted, I don't know, this is a question for Saisha, how do we get, I feel like we get left out of a lot of conversations. I mean, there's this ID one, there's the $50,000 that was given from NISCA, from Eric Ennis to the Philadelphia artist Chris Murray to finish his Beheim mural. There's DRI money coming in downtown. I mean, there's been other conversations that we've just been left out of. And this is the mayor's office. So, you know, again, we're a resource, we're a tool. And maybe we could have helped guide some of this content. Like, you know, how do we make that connection more efficient and better, I guess?
I think we're starting it right here, right now, with
So-
having Betsy at the table.
Now we know.
Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I think this has been extremely helpful for us.
Yeah.
And we will set up a follow-up task force, specialized meeting, and really get down into more of the details.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, feel free to contact us. I shook my head, Professor Carter, because I didn't know if you thought it, I'm sorry to call you out, but, you know, we're here to have this dialogue in whatever format, so just reach out, whatever, you know, this is important to us, so that's why we're here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have any ways that I can try to push that area? Please let me
Yes.
know.
Noted.
Because that's a huge concern with, I know the people in the TNT is very worried about that already, because they tagged it once early on, and it hasn't been tagged yet, but that's something they're very concerned about. I know
It
that.
does have anti-graffiti coating,
Yeah.
which makes it easier to remove, but I recognize
Yeah.
it's not, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay! Public art is happening.
So there's a couple other things that we need to talk about, but before we do, I'd like to give the floor to our, yes, take your concepts back.
You want us back.
Our application, SPAC 2518. This is Unboxed, the Utility Box Art Project Round 2.
We need to call the meeting to order. We haven't-
We already called it to order.
Oh, or do we, I mean, go over the minutes, or?
Oh, you're right, we do need to go over the minutes, but let's go, what's
Say, we
our
can get this
applicant?
in first, and then we can still
That sounds
approve the minutes.
You can welcome to stay afterwards, but I think you probably want to get home to eat, so if you want to come up and. Well, I know I am, so I'm speaking for us. You're welcome to sit at the table if it's more comfortable. You could stay up there, whatever you feel.
I didn't bring my laptop to do my little, like,
You're good. You're good. We've got,
you guys have everything, so I'll come and sit down, so. Well, thank you guys for hearing our application again. It's great to be back to share round 2.1, as we're calling it, of the Utility Box Art Project. So from the Downtown Syracuse Foundation with the Downtown Committee of Syracuse, we started this pilot program last year to showcase artistic talent in our local community and utilizing overlooked public infrastructure such as utility boxes. And over these last 2 rounds, we feel like we've had a great response and a great success in having 6 total utility boxes painted so far by 5 different local artists. And the reception of the work has been so positive that we've heard from the community, from people sharing them online, to the artists putting out the information about them doing it, just to seeing people on the street engage with it. We've been really, and media support. There's been, each time we've wrapped one of the rounds of it, there's been a media story. We've put out our own information, and it's been, again, really well received. So for 2.1, we have identified 2 new canvases, 2 utility boxes, one in the downtown East neighborhood at the corner of East Genesee Street and South McBride, and one in the southern downtown neighborhood at the corner of South Warren and East Onondaga. There's photos of both in the application packet, so you can see where it is and the proposed piece for it. This round differed slightly from the previous 2 rounds, as we did not do a public call for art, instead identifying 2 previously identified artists that applied for one from each round. And looking at the size of the box and the scope of the work, they were each a finalist, one from round 1, one from round 2, and we thought this would be a great way to give an opportunity for these previously applied artists who had gone through the whole process, were identified by the review committee, and both received a lot of votes, but the work that they were up against received more votes. So we saw this as an opportunity to give a second chance to 2 artists. And these artists are Michael Calabrese with his very whimsical salt potato boat, and Shailene Harris's Joyful and Bright Bees and Flowers. So again, it's a deviation, but it's still, these artists did go through the process, the public saw their work, so we thought that this was a different way to give a second chance and also expedite the process to hopefully finish 8 full boxes by the end of this year and be able to use funds that we have from two remaining grant sources, the CNY Arts, very long ones, the re-grant one that we have from New York State, as well as the Central New York Community Foundation. So in each of the packets, there is a small write-up about each of the work where they, as part of their application, each artist had to talk about the work that they submitted, as well as photos. And like with the previous round, the downtown committee, our environmental maintenance team will work to maintain the artwork. We look for graffiti, tags, stickers, the bane of some of the existence. So we remove them the best we can. If the artist does need to be brought back in to do any repairs or touch-ups, we will pay the artist for their work out of our maintenance funds that we've put aside for the ongoing maintenance of these. So, you know, the goal is for these sanctioned works of hand-painted signed artwork to act not just as a deterrent for unsanctioned artwork, but to create moments of joy on the streetscape, to activate them, and to provide platform for local artists, and something that we hope to continue to do past round 2.1, hopefully into a full round 3. And, you know, we work in partnership to identify these priorities and public art is one of those, and using these infrastructures and hopefully deterring some graffiti on them to keep it ongoing, you know, the public artscape growing in downtown. So not too different from 1 and 2, just a little bit different with the process of it.
Questions? I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So the last round you used somebody used a vinyl application, I think, or something like that. How is that holding up?
So that was one of the applicants. It wasn't one of the winners. So they are all hand painted on there.
I thought the feather one was the...
Right, that one did not win public vote. So it wasn't, but we do, so any of those that come in, because we are open to different processes, we have discussed with the city if that's okay, like, can we use decals? Can we use this? And, you know, looking at certain things, like it can't cover vents, but it is possible. So we have not done one with a decal yet. I'm not saying we're not open to it, but, you know, so if it happens, you know, it's interesting. I haven't...
Do you know the lifespan of that material versus hand painting?
The one that artist spec'd out for her application was one that was an exterior decal used a lot for advertisements on, I believe, like benches and exteriors of buildings. So it's meant to be a colorful decal with a graphic or something, meant to be on the exterior of a building. So from the product specs that she sent us, it had a fairly good lifespan. And I think she was going to include a bit of hand painting too for some of the areas that it wouldn't be able to go to. But then, you know, some of the question of maintenance, would then a new one need to be ordered? It didn't play into any effect of if she was chosen or not. Again, that was purely public voting. But with some of those different materials, it is, you know, the vinyl wraps that I've seen other cities do, there is a good length of time, but replacement is, I think, in fact, a full
And depending on if it's
replacement.
exposed to the sun and all that jazz.
Yeah, there's a different lifespan. You know, with paint, it can fade too, but you can bring in somebody to do some touch-ups. We've had to have an artist do touch-up here and there as, you know, little graffiti pens.
There is a vinyl mural in Auburn. And
really?
Is it holding up really well?
It's gorgeous.
Where
How
in
long has it been
Auburn
up
is
for?
it?
It's been up at least 5 years now.
Okay.
Maybe going on 5 years. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I used to have the part of the guy who installed it, and he does these often. He has really great specs on the product. But yeah,
Yeah. So something we haven't done, not that we wouldn't do it, and just be a different, you know, how we look at the maintenance of it, and hopefully longevity. And next time in Auburn, I will have to go check that out.
yeah, you can't miss it.
All right. Any other questions?
Can I have a timeline on this, just because it's getting colder? I know they're going to be outside. It's darker earlier now, like it's dark now, so.
So if it's approved, the artists have the ability to start tomorrow. I've met with all the artists. The two artists have been contacted, and we've gone through the timeline. So the timeline would be through the end of November. Last year, we did have an artist working through mid-November. The two of them are both traveling, so we wanted to extend it out. We will facilitate a meeting with them, with the people at the art store, because they're very knowledgeable. If there's any products or anything they need to know about cold weather, the painting, hopefully we'll have a warm November.
I think the technology's gotten a lot better where you can
Yeah.
paint in like 30-degree weather.
Yeah, it's not like 50 degree anymore.
Right,
So
yeah.
they're all aware of that. So they have until the end of November to do that, just to give them the length of time. Both of them, asked to have that accommodated. So, but they're aware of it being cold. They're both local enough that. So we're hoping with enough weekends and afternoon days that they both feel confident with the timeline, which I think I have detailed in the application, including. I hope
I mean, these
so.
are small enough where it shouldn't take them 2 months to do these, right?
Right. Hopefully, with the weather, if we don't have a rainy, knock
Right.
on wood, we've had a fairly dry fall. I've met with both of them at the locations that they're at. They are the smaller boxes, and depending on their time or the speed in which they're working, it might, hopefully be a quick one. But they both felt comfortable with it, as and they'll be meeting with the representative, the owner, not the owner, but maybe one of the salespeople at the art store to discuss materials and if there's any considerations they need to take. So we'll set up that meeting. The art store has been wonderful about meeting with any of the artists from this project to go over materials if they have questions, and yeah, it's been wonderful.
I just want you to be aware that the Nottingham High School now has a public art program.
Me too.
Yes, they just started it this year, and it's one of the teacher who's teaching it actually done murals here in the city. Cecily is the teacher.
Maybe
So
if you have
please
that
keep
information to
yes.
pass along, that'd be wonderful. Just
she's
thinking of
still-
like maybe a next one, maybe
development.
3.0 is a student.
It's
who
right now
knows?
it's in development because she
Okay.
did reach out to me about it too. And I think they're trying to figure a lot of things out.
It'd be great to connect with them,
it'll be
even if they want to
starting.
come and see the public art that we have in downtown. It'd be a great, or talk to one
It's
of
a
the artists
program
that have done
yeah.
it. That would be a great, just to give an idea of like, here's some budding public artists, here's some of the artists that have done it.
So they're
And
creating the whole thing right now,
So
but that
cool.
it might be something you guys really want to get in on, so that it could be possibly a project for the end of the year, for maybe not this year, but when
at
they
some
start
point,
getting,
yeah.
yes, that you guys will be able to do that and provide the materials while kids get exposure to seeing what it's like for real.
yeah, because they see it, if you see it, if you're driving along, it's like, how do you do that? How do you get to that point? And so it'd be a great education and skill
So
building.
going through
So,
the whole process even of this.
Yes.
Would be great for the kids.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a great thing to know.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion? Benny first. Motion to approve? Oh, we got a tie here. Fight. Manuel seconds. All right, all in favor? All right, motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for supporting this and continuing to support this. We'll have a total of 8 in 1 year. We're excited. Everybody have a great night. Thank you
too.
again.
Can I,
Oh, yeah,
I'm just gonna say I approve the minutes,
Okay.
in case you guys need to take.
So yeah, we have to take a minute to review the minutes. And what, Deborah is here. I'm going to mention something if she's okay with it. And then if she feels comfortable, invite you up and you can talk a little bit more about the project. But we got a couple more things to work through. But I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to talk about that project. So, and which I think will tie into what Lisa was referencing earlier. So if everybody could take a minute to review our September 9th minutes submitted by Benny Guzman. Thank you, Benny.
Yeah, so I do have a discrepancy now, because I know last meeting, we had Joe come in to continue with the grant demonstration. So I don't know if that was technically part of a SPAC application, because if not, that would be 2518.
Yeah, it was.
So this is 19.
So the current one that we just approved is 19.
2519 is
So
the unboxed.
the minutes should be fine, but just for the next one, it would be 2519.
Got it.
Yeah. Other than that.
Annika's last name, isn't it her? H-E-R-R?
I thought so, but I also looked at the application, that was what was on there. So I could be wrong. Let me look it up.
And everybody's ready? Can you get a motion to approve? Emmanuel first. Do we have a second? Advana seconds? Sure. All in favor? Aye. All right. Motion carries. Okay, so couple of things here. Just real quick, our website. I know it was supposed to be launched in May of 3 years ago, but the logo, we did all the, communities forum, we did our mission, vision, and then we were supposed to do a new logo, rebrand, and get this bathroom sign out of here. So when can we start working on that process?
So I can't speak for that. I would have to talk to whoever you were working with to design that. I know the website is still in progress. It's kind of paused until we hire our coordinator,
Right.
which that'll be out by Friday. We'll have the posting on Indeed, so we're looking for a new public art coordinator. I know I've been in the works with Jason, who Ann was working with on the website, and it's still on our radar. Ann did talk to me about the logo before she left, and I understood that this was not what the commission wanted anymore. So I think that would be one of those task force or committees. Is there a task force that it's leading this? Benny, it's you?
Essentially, yeah.
Media.
Because I know that we also did this whole branding kind of discussion regarding the website and everything, so.
Yeah, because it was all tied together.
Did you all have examples of a proposed logo, or you were
No.
working with an artist?
Ruthnie was supposed to help us based on our identified mission, vision, and then, was it goals, or what did she call it?
Okay.
Essentially, yeah, that.
Or descriptions?
It was more the mission and vision and
I
just that
forget.
we kind of got stuck there, and then it was around that time where Anne was then also in transition out, so I think that's just kind of where we kind of got stuck because,
So Ruthie's back because she was out for a while, so I think we
Okay.
can move on with this.
Okay.
Perfect.
So I'll connect with Ruthie,
Okay.
and then I'll get back to you.
All right, and then I did send everybody a welcome packet. We can talk about it after. I want to, introduce Deborah. I threw this together. I won't be offended if y'all are like, this is terrible, throw it out, or chop it up, or I wanted something to get out into the world because for the past year, I have been trying to create some protocols, some standardization so that when a new commissioner comes in, they know what they're doing. They know how open meeting laws work. We have some New York State even offers training on open meeting law that you could tap into, which is, I've consulted with them on questions that we've had. And they're always changing. Open meeting laws can change. So it's really important that whoever you hire, that they receive training on open meeting law regularly, like every year. And same as the commission, we need training on open meeting laws. The other thing too is was talking to Joe Barry a lot. I wanted to do a deep dive in our application process because there are some issues. We are not consistent. Where one rule applies to one, it doesn't apply to another. Insurance, for example, or who submits. I know, we've had conversations, United Way, or even Downtown Committee, they just came in and submitted for Unboxed, and they represented the artists weren't here. But Tomorrow's Neighborhoods Today didn't submit, they had the artists submit. And it's a little weird because we need to look at funding sources. That is our responsibility, because we need to make sure that the project is properly insured. We need to make sure that it can happen. You know, all of those different things. So, Benny, it's in your court now.
Thanks.
But Joe Barry's really great, and he's been super helpful. And every time I've emailed him, he's always gotten back to me. So I definitely think that should be, y'all need to sit down with him and have this discussion in an executive session, because the chair can call executive session if it's legal, if it's in terms of legalities. So you have to ask your questions and frame them in legal terms. But I think the ultimate goal and what we've been trying to work on for the past year is a standardization so that no artist comes in feeling like they were mistreated. And if they don't check all the boxes, then we can say to them, how do we help you? Because we're here to help and bridge connections, not push people away. So, you know, that's to be worked on, but, you know, that's something I have been trying to work on for the past year. I know we all have, but it just didn't happen. What is the other thing I want to say? So yeah, the welcome packet, I don't know how we want to handle that, but that's, you know, we can't do that in emails. It has to be in a public setting. But again, it's just like, welcome to the commission. This is your role. This is who you talk to. This is the things you need to know. And it may not be spelled out perfectly in here, because honestly, I thought our meeting was last week. And so I rushed to get it done, and then I realized we had another week. But I wanted you guys to have enough time to look it over at least and have some thoughts on it. Before we dive into that, though, briefly, because I know we don't want to stay here all night, but Deborah reached out to me, Deborah Little. She has a project that I think would fit into our educational component in our master plan. She had a vision to do murals on our city schools and to make them positive, welcoming spaces, whether that's through affirmations or that's positive imagery. But Lisa is an art teacher at Elms. And Cecily, like she said, Cecily reached out to me. They are developing a program at Nottingham for public art. So this could be a good partnership with the city school district themselves to create some public art on their own buildings. I don't know if you feel comfortable talking, or if you would like to, you could sit at the table with us. And yeah, just a couple minutes, and then we'll move on. And
Good evening, everyone. We won't be long. Thank you so much for sparing some time for me, and thank you so much for your text. It's very nice to meet you. My name is Deborah Little, and I am a native Syracusan. My primary residence right now is in Las Vegas. I started a nonprofit organization and was told to come home to implement it. So my nonprofit has a partnership with the Syracuse City School District. It's called the Personal Educational Development Program. Last year, I worked with 9 different schools, 4 middle schools and 5 high schools. And I asked for students who have high absenteeism, low grades, and bad attitudes. And when I go into the schools, I work with them on 4 different issues, or they're not issues, elements. And ultimately, the question for my students are, what's the vision for your life? Very non-traditional education. Each one teach one. We have a Legacy Learning Lounge, which is our tutoring program. I give out gift cards for every week that you have perfect attendance. And I start working with my students on a project to improve a condition in their schools. And then parallel to that is your life is the project. What's the plan and the strategy for your life? I'm on my 2nd year, it's just getting started this year. And so there was one Sunday and so I'm just getting started meeting with the principals, my ambassadors, and this week I'm meeting with some students for the first time. A few weeks ago, I did not go to church. I'm a member at Bethany Baptist, and I sat in the yard at Lincoln Middle School. I live directly across the street. Until next week, I'm moving. And as I sat there, my truth is I just sat there in prayer. Okay, Lord, I'm here again. You brought me home. What's the plan and the strategy for my life now? And so the Lord speaks. If you're quiet enough and listening intently enough, you hear him. So I started walking around Lincoln Middle School, beautiful Sunday morning, and I noticed the condition of the exterior of the building. So I mostly was looking at the sidewalk, the weeds, the overgrown. And my thought was cleanup project for the students at this school. We can clean up the outside. However, the Lord's visions are always bigger than our own, but he said, look up, look up. So when I look at Lincoln Middle School, it is a huge canvas. It's a huge brown brick building that only has windows that I saw in the front, which is the offices. So both sides are just these big brick walls. And when my spirit heard, look up, because I was looking down, I get emotional about it, because the kids that I work with need to hear messages that encourage them and inspire them and remind them of their brilliance and what they can be and accomplish. And so the vision that I had was that one big old wall in the parking lot that could have 80% of success is just showing up. Congratulations on being a success today. Now you get off of a bus every day and you read that, you see that, as well as like flowers, birds, other major motivational quotes that speak to the value of education. And that's only one school, and that's only one side of the building, because the other side of the building is exactly the same, a little bit different in the structure of it, but big brown brick wall. So my focus has been on the students, because superintendent said, make your own schedule, do whatever you need to do, but make it work, Deborah. Make it work. And last year, we were a success. And this year, I had students texting me saying, Miss Little, when are you coming back? Miss Deborah, when are you coming back? Like literally asking. So I'm coming back. Like, shoot, I'm here. I'm here. However, what I decided to do was a little bit of homework, because I am an artist, but not like you all. And I'm creative. And my thought was, so I made an appointment with the current superintendent and the incoming superintendent to share the vision. Unfortunately, my meeting is on September the 29th, so just before Superintendent Davis leaves. And the meeting...
October 29th, sorry.
Oh, thank you. October. Everybody's like September. Yeah, October. Time is flying.
I know.
October 29th, just before he leaves. And the meeting is scheduled for 3 p.m. in the parking lot of Lincoln Middle School. And that's when I figured I would share this vision. And when I made the appointment and I talked to the Superintendent Davis, I said, the vision is just bigger than me. It just really is. So my thought was, I should do some homework and find out how would this even happen. And so that's when I went down to our art community. What is that? Genesee Street and
Fayette.
And Gifford. Fayette and Gifford.
Fayette and Geddes.
Geddes.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been a long day for me too. And then I was introduced to Tina, and then she called me, and we had a lengthy conversation. I wasn't looking at this as a project that I take on. I just was given a vision on a way to improve a condition in the city of Syracuse. And while my focus is primarily students, because that's the measurement of my success, improve grades and improve attendance, it occurred to me that our teachers park in that lot every day, every morning, weekday morning, and they get out of their cars looking at that big brick building and walk in. There is nothing there to inspire them, to encourage them, to make them feel good about walking in. When I drive around the Syracuse community, I know what happens to my spirit when I see the beautiful artwork that is on our buildings, the murals. I have begun taking pictures of the artwork to gather the name of the artists and just to have the photos of the art. It is changing the look of our community. It just really is. And because it affects me this way, I can only imagine that it is really affecting a lot of people, particularly those who see it every day. And so in the discussion with Tina, I was sharing with her, it's a vision that I was given. It's a huge vision. I went that Sunday when I left Lincoln, I got in my car and I'm at 10 schools this year, 5 high schools and 5 middle schools. So I started driving to all of our schools. Some of them don't have that kind of space, but several of them do. And several of them even have space where a quote, or inside the schools where I go, they have quotes all over the school inside, but nothing on the outside. And I just know, I'm beyond belief at this point, because I know that artwork, beautiful artwork, amazing quotes on the value of education, nobody can take that knowledge away from you, kind of thing, has tremendous potential for changing the state of education in the city of Syracuse. So as we were talking, I've traveled all around the world a few times, and I see artwork all around the world, and there are artists, international artists, who volunteer because they are changing communities in the poorest neighborhoods of Brazil, Shanghai, just low income communities where the artwork is beautifying what used to be slums. Rio de Janeiro, I've seen it, and I've experienced it, and I know what it does for my spirit. So we talked about the potential of the Gates Foundation, like where does this funding come from? My truth is I do not know, but what I do know is that when the Lord gives me a vision, he provides. And so mine is to just do, and don't worry about anything else. What you hear, you do. I'll take care of the rest. And that is my story. When I talk to my kids about the plan and the strategy for their lives, I tell them I stand before you successful in the plan and the strategy for mine, because he told me to come home. And he told me to open my hands and give back generously. And my gift is teaching. And I love teaching, and I love kids, and so did my husband. And so I am in 10 schools this year. I took on another, and I didn't have to. He didn't tell me how many schools. He just said, make it work. So 10 schools, 5 middle, 5 high. Last year, one of my classes was an art class. The art teacher would teach for the first half an hour, and then I would come in and teach for most of the rest of the day. And then I would leave time for her to reaffirm the assignment and all of that. But I was in an art class at Henniger High School. The kids put their hand in paint. This was their project. Hand in paint, put up on the hallway walls in the 9th grade hallway, because they were 9th graders. The paint dried. The next week we came back and we wrote educational quotes inside of their handprints. So they are leaving their legacy on the 9th grade walls at Henniger High School when they come back year after year until they paint over it, which I hope they won't. These students see their work. The ultimate idea is that when we find, I don't speak in ifs or tries, I either am or I am not, or when this happens, and we get down to the bottom, it would be wonderful to have our kids at all of the schools that have these projects, one school at a time, I imagine, finish the work. So there's no ladders, but when it gets down to the bottom and these babies can come out and and the artist is already drawn it, and then they put their little splatter of paint. This needs to be paint, green, red, yellow, and the kids finish the work. That's their investment in their school, in their education, and the odds of them coming to school more often just to see their work, their finished work, their creation. The odds of all of this really changing the nature of education in our schools, I just see it as an amazing opportunity. So that's the idea, that's where I got it, and I really, really know beyond belief that it would change a lot. And, when you drive down James Street and you look at Lincoln School and you see these big, beautiful murals on both sides, not much room in the front, you're inspired. I don't know how you wouldn't be. And there's a lot of schools that could use that. A lot of them that could use that. Idea on the table.
Well, thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Elisa will be in touch.
That your quote thing for inside the building, if you do want to do that, I have a Cricut and I have lots of vinyl that you can make the quotes and put them up on the walls, because then they can peel and come off. That we can easily do. So,
I'll give her your contact.
but
and vice
otherwise,
versa.
yeah, we can work with the district.
Did you say your elementary school?
I'm actually in middle school.
Middle school?
I'm at the Expeditionary Learning Middle School,
Okay, at Cleary.
next door to Clary.
Next door to Clary, next door to
Yes.
Clary. I know, I parked in front of your school as I waited to go in, was like, what is this?
It's
Okay,
an amazing place.
I don't doubt it. Thank you again.
Yeah, and so we'll connect you too, and then Cecily too. I did just text her your information, so that's another good one to work out. But thank you so much, and you're welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for what you're doing to beautify our community. I see it. I've been gone a long time, and I'm back, and I like what I see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I don't know if we want to get into this, but what do you guys, I guess I want to hear your thoughts on the welcome packet. What is, go ahead. Okay.
Thank you. I did read through it. I didn't have time to really like dig into providing any feedback, but I remember when I joined the commission in my first meeting, it was just like, here you go. And I'm like, what is, like, how does this function? What do we do? And we can also use this for recruiting new members because, you know, we want enthusiastic people, but we want them to be set up to understand what we
Right.
are.
And not feel so overwhelmed.
Yeah, yeah. So,
There's a lot more to
obviously we don't
build
have-
out.
Yeah. Obviously, we don't have time tonight to completely get into it and proof and edit, but
It might be good to put it through a task force for
Yeah.
specialization, just to get into the nitty gritty and not waste, not waste, but like take up the time of the public meetings and then present it back to the group. Maybe the master plan task force would be ideal for this one.
I agree. I think that's it. But it's great bones. Like,
Yeah.
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 And again, I won't be offended if you guys chop it up or whatever. I just wanted to get something started because we've been trying to do this for a year, so I think it's really important that we have it. Thank you. At least I'm leaving something.
You're leaving more than just this. That's,
All right, so,
Can I ask a quick question? I know somebody who is interested in joining this commission. She's also a public school. She's great. She's awesome. I don't know if we need any commissioners right now.
well,
Do we know?
there all will be a vacancy for me. I'm leaving. So depending on my role, I forget what it is. You have to look up our terms and what we're being appointed to. There's two ways to get appointed, by the mayor and by the council. And I think typically what people do is go send it to the mayor's office and say, I want to be.
Submit a bio or a bio about themselves.
And the coordinator too would have helped facilitate that, but since we don't, you'd have to probably send it to
You can send it to
Saisha.
me and I'll get it to the mayor.
All right, so I'll have her email you with like a resume, a little
Yep.
about paragraph kind of
Yes.
thing. Cool.
Yeah, because I was appointed by the mayor, so it has to go through the mayor. Yeah. But if there's ever an opening from council, you would just talk to a council member and say, hey, can you appoint this person to the commission?
All right, I'll have her email you.
All right. Anything else? I motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, yay! I'm retired.
Did you want to meet in person at like some?